If this ends up just being digital gold, I think it's failed. I don't think it has a life. If it ends up being a currency that people can use on a daily basis, then it's succeeded. You have to go back to the white paper. This is P2P electronic cash.
We're about to see a big run-up before a sell-off. Eventually, in crypto, they know there's going to be a cycle, but they feel like conditions are ripe right now for Bitcoin and crypto to go higher.
For it. Here in India, I think it's 1 billion people have digital ID. It's been taken up on a voluntary basis in huge numbers, not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily than is available with others. So I think now we need to go out and make that case.
Most of the people who use Netflix know you offer games?
I would say, that's part of, frankly, what's been hard about this. And I think it's hard for any brand that has a deep, consumer sense of what are you doing for me, right? And then you're like, well, I'm going to do this as well. And it takes a while to really build up that sense of what's happening. But it's not that dissimilar to, let's say, when we launched, in a new country, like you went to Japan, right? Yeah. So when we started in Japan, 2% of the Japanese population had ever heard of Netflix. So nobody knew nobody even knew our name, much less be able to tell you what we were doing. And we were doing pay TV service in a country that doesn't really have a great pay TV, operation. We're doing over the internet in a way that was totally new. And so you got to every day build a little bit of like, what are we doing, who we are, what are we, how are we here to serve you? So that 10-year journey, let's say, we just did the 10th anniversary in Japan, tremendous progress over 10 years, but it took us a long time. And I think, the gaming situation is not dissimilar to that.
How much is it an impediment that for the most part now you can only play it on your phone?
Well, I would say, the phone is, what's great about it is it's a well-developed gaming ecosystem, right? So folks know to find games there, but it's also a highly competitive gaming ecosystem. So its developedness gives you both that upside and that downside. But what's exciting is that now we are moving beyond the phone to the TV. So I mentioned like one of the big gaming areas we're going after. One of the big gaming areas we're going after now is, social gaming experiences that will show up on your TV. So we are now announcing, we're going to announce here actually, that we're going to have these social party games, a pack of social party games that you can play on your TV with your phone as the controller. And it's things like, recognizable games like Boggle, you got Pictionary, we've got a Lego party game, we've got Tetris, we've got like a Mafia style whodunit. This is me and our CTO Elizabeth playing Boggle here, which is we're two very competitive people, so it got pretty ugly.
Who won?
A little bit. I'm not going to say.
That means you lost.
Oh, does it? Why don't you watch the video, my friend? you triggered my competitive spirit. But this is, so it's your phone, which is an incredible device. And there's all sorts of things you're going to be able to do on your phone that you can't do on a normal controller, like touch screen. And this is us basically picking our words on that. And it's, it's dead simple to use. It's intuitive. And then this is, us on the earliest days of how we actually can use that. And if we, basically are going to like unleash this with a bunch of creators, and they're going to go figure out stuff that we didn't even imagine that they can do with that interactivity.
Revealing this morning the amount of U.S. Treasuries held by global central banks hit its lowest in more than a decade, the drop of about $130 billion just since August, raising fears that global de-dollarization is accelerating. For more, let's bring in BK Asset Management Managing Director of FX Strategy, Kathy Lean. Kathy, great to have you with us. It's not just this drop held in Treasuries held at the New York Federal Reserve Bank, but it's also the rise in gold, it's the weakness in the dollar, it's all these things combined, Kathy. What do you think is going on?
Well, I think that the de-dollarization is impacting the rise in gold. It's playing a very big story. We're seeing a structural shift, and normally custody holdings will fluctuate based upon global conditions, interest rates, who's managing the assets. But this is a deeper issue. I think we started to see a significant decline after we had the initial tariffs. So tariffs and geopolitics have been a big part of the story, and this has pushed a lot of central banks to think twice about what kind of assets they want to be holding. And when trade becomes unpredictable, and we're still seeing new tariff announcements, every single month, central banks are starting to look for ways to diversify and protect themselves from U.S. policy risks. of treasuries. So central banks, what they're doing is they're not necessarily rejecting the dollar, but they don't want to be overexposed to it in this type of market environment. So there's a lot of factors that are playing into the reduction in treasury holdings.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think. And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you head in the Cash App. Also, go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Jack Dorsey says if the narrative of digital gold continues for Bitcoin, it'll end up being nothing. If you read the white paper, Bitcoin was for peer-to-peer payments. But we know what Satoshi Nakamoto means in Japanese. So we know the alphabet boys were clearly behind crypto. It was the perfect narrative to get us moved over to this digital economy. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Now we have everyone calling for a year-end rally. And the only catalyst that we do have is altcoin spot ETFs getting approved. Because we're starting to see holes in the stock market, the economy, and we know for a fact the Fed is not turning that money printer back on. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have the UK and India speaking on the digital ID, just like Larry Fink. And we know the emerging markets are definitely going to rise. But remember, they didn't have any infrastructure. So if you're presenting it to the people and selling it to the people as faster and easier, the same way our people are being sold, we see the millennials, Generation Z, are just using the technology and have no clue on how it works. And that's how they're going to move in all this technology, the robots, algorithms, and drones, because the only thing our people want to do is tap and keep it moving. They don't want critical thinkers. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Now we have games on Netflix. And of course, don't forget Netflix signed an agreement with Microsoft a while ago. But this is a plan that moves in phases. This is just one step closer to the metaverse, the virtual world. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And this lets you know that things are just breaking down. The amount of U.S. treasuries being held by countries hit its lowest in a decade. And what does the crypto teacher tell you time and time again? No one wants this long-term paper, but this is done by design. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. You have de-dollarization globally, and you're witnessing the death of fiat also globally, but definitely the fall of America to Babylon with the world reserve currency. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And this is another sign that things are breaking down. We have Scott Bessent steps in and buys Argentina pesos. If you're part of the stock Patreon, we know why. We know why they stepped in, because Argentina was offloading dollars. So, of course, the U.S. Treasury had no choice but to step in. And then on top of that, they do a framework for a $20 billion swap line. Guys, this is unbelievable. Well, remember, finances is boring. It is boring. People can care less, but it controls your whole life. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And then we have Michael Barr says the Fed should take caution. And guys, we know what that means. That means they need to pause. And in 2026, that's all we're going to see is entertainment after entertainment after entertainment. Because they can't hold this up in 2026. They can hold it up until the end of 2025. But remember, we're in a fragmented world. They're trying to break it all up. And they want it to crumble 2026 to 2028. So therefore, they run in with these machines. Remember, cause a problem, wait for the reaction, and run in with a solution. And we know what that solution is. That free money, the metaverse, and the rise of the machines. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Because he knows when it comes to the NWO, It's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
What is moving the metals?
Well, I think there's three factors driving it. One is de-dollarization. It started with the China block in Russia. I want to point out that the central banks now own 27% of their reserves are now in gold. It exceeds U.S. Treasury. So the de-dollarization theme, been in place for 5+ years, continuing to drive gold. Then we can add in the debasement trade, which really started to gain steam with the government shutdown. We saw the ETF have 110 tons of inflows in recently around the debasement. And then the third one, I'd just say diversification. Investors want to own something other than really, tight credit spreads in the fixed income space. And hey, you look at equity markets, they're kind of stretched. So metals, and I'd throw in copper, silver, platinum, palladium, the entire list you just rambled off. We're seeing it in all of these hard metals, and I think there's a lot more upside. I'm not going to say this thing won't trade down if we end the government shutdown, but we look out. To give you an idea, central bank holdings going back into the 70s, we're running at 75%. So if they're at 27%, we could see these numbers go much higher.
Coming in, intervening in these markets, what do we know so far?
So we know what Besant tweeted, right? That they finalized talks for this 20 billion swap line, which the Argentine economic team has been in D.C. for a few days discussing. I think they flew in Friday. And he also made this, I think, a bit surprising and extraordinary step to say we stepped into currency markets and bought pesos directly, which I think caught everyone a little bit by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the reaction in those markets right now. But we know that when it comes to FX intervention, particularly unilateral FX intervention, as you pointed out in the break, it has a mixed history of success. So even though we're seeing this knee-jerk reaction now, Mike, there's no guarantee that this will stick.
Well, the U.S. has only done this 3 times before. Once was 1998 when they bought yen, and in 2000 they bought euros to try to strengthen both of those currencies. But they did it in concert with other G7 countries. And then in 2011, the U.S. and other G7 countries sold yen after the Japanese earthquake. And that was less an intervention for manipulating the currency than it was to make sure that the Japanese economy stayed on a level basis. But the Japanese have been the people who intervene all the time on their own. And it worked for a while in the 1990s, but it just got to be almost impossible to do because the amount you can buy in a currency market that trades $9 trillion of currency a day is so small that unless you get the markets believing that the currency is going to go in the direction you want, you basically spent money for a few days worth of reaction.
A strong note of support for the government of Argentina and for Argentine financial markets, but the technical details here might be worth looking at. What the Treasury Secretary writes here is that Argentina faces a moment of acute illiquidity. The international community, including the IMF, is unified behind Argentina and its prudent fiscal strategy, but only the United States can act swiftly, and act we will. The Treasury Secretary goes on to say, to that end, today we have directly purchased Argentine pesos. Additionally, we have finalized a $20 billion currency swap framework with Argentina's central bank. The U.S. Treasury is prepared immediately to take whatever exceptional measures are warranted to provide stability to markets.
Michael Barr, the Fed governor, saying the Fed should be cautious about adjusting policy. And I'm making a point of this, Scott, because there's a contingent of people out there, Fed folks, who have been using this term cautious approach. And that was in the minutes yesterday. Lori Logan used it. Barr saying the Fed's price stability goal faces significant risk. He's skeptical the Fed should look through higher inflation from tariffs. A quote from his speech that he's giving right now says, there has been nothing one-time or predictable about these tariff increases, arguing against some of the folks who said the Fed should be looking through it. He said the Fed is heading to missing the 2% inflation target for 6.5 years, and that is if they hit the target as projected by 2027, the longest period since 1993. He said, on the other hand, the Fed needs to prepare for possibility the labor market is softening and could become worse. The labor market is more vulnerable to shocks here. So he does talk about both sides of it, but in the absence of data, he talks indeed about the shutdown, saying it's hard to judge what's going on with the shutdown right now, but it should be a hit to GDP now and come back later.
Going to a different economy And we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Crypto Teacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Team goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.